All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. That way we have enough time to get through everything today and give you guys time to ask me some questions. I will stop at each section to let you guys ask questions, but my presentation is called Just Tech With It, and TECH stands for Testing, Engaging, Creating, and Hands-On. And I'm going to be discussing different ways that you can use technology for each one of these components. So how can you assess your students? How can you engage them? How can you allow them to create, or how can you be creative? And then how can you be hands-on? So we're going to go ahead and get started. Just as an introduction, I am an FGCU alum. I graduated in 2015, and I now live in Utah. I have been teaching for 6 years. I did 3 years in Florida in Tallahassee after I graduated, and then I moved to Utah, and I have been married for 1 month. It'll be 1 month on Tuesday. COVID wedding planning was very stressful, so I'm glad that it's over. I also have my master's in education and STEM leadership. So I got that through American College of Ed, and I loved every moment of it and implementing it as well. And thank you, Shelby and Jessica. So that's just a little bit about me. So I just want to go over the format of my presentation. In the top left-hand corner, you will see which component I am discussing. And then in the top right-hand corner, you will see the tool or the icon. So you'll see like their logo. And then at the very middle between those two will be the name of it. You guys also got a cheat sheet that I created, and that's in the handout section. So after our presentation, you can download that, and it has everything that I talked about in that presentation on that cheat sheet. So we're going to start off with the T of test. And the first way that I use, or the first tool that I use, is Google Forms to assess my students. And so here's just a quiz that I created for structures and functions in science. I really like Google Forms because it's very fluid. You can add pictures, you can do different types of question types, but then at the end, it gives you once students have completed it and turned it in, it gives you great information on what students miss the most, or it gives you great graphs and pie charts and whatnot. So I really do like using Google Forms as a assessment tool. And we use Canvas at my school, so it integrates with Canvas extremely well. So that's Google Forms. Gimket is another amazing website that I use to assess students, and it's one of my students' favorite ways because they don't even know that they're being assessed. So this is just an example of what it looks like. You would ask a question, and this is from the student's point of view of what it would look like, and they would get to choose between 4 answer choices. And if they get it right, they earn money. And up here, and we call it the hamburger, the left-hand side, that was 3 little lines. There is a store, and they can purchase things in the store, such as, a money multiplier, so they can multiply their money amount for every right question that they get. Or their favorite is freezing other students, so they could, if they're working in a team, they can freeze other teams. So that allows them, that team who was frozen, to not be able to play for a couple minutes. They can, right now, because of Thanksgiving, they have a pie, so they can pie other teams. And Gimket's really great about updating with the different seasons as well. So for Halloween, they had a Halloween one. I'm excited to see what they'll have for Christmas. Right now, they have a Thanos one from like the Avengers, so they have to try to earn enough money to purchase all of the stones before the snap. So if you have kids who are super involved or love superheroes, that one's a great one. So it's very fun and engaging for the students, and they really have no idea that they're being assessed or practicing skills during this time. So this is one of my favorite resources to use with students. And they ask all the time, can we play a Gimket? Are we playing Gimket today? All the time. So definitely one of my favorites. This one is Quiz Is. you might have heard of this one. This one is a little like Kahoot and Gimket together. It plays fun music while they're playing, but it's set up quite the same as Gimket and Kahoot, to whereas you have a question and then they have different answer choices. So on the right-hand side here, I have what a student view looks like. And on the left-hand side, I have my teacher view. What's great is if you are doing distance learning or virtual learning right now, you can assign this as homework for students to complete on their own, or you can schedule a time that you guys can do it together as a class, and that's the start a live quiz or assign it as homework. This one, they don't get to get money or they don't earn anything. They just earn points, and you can kind of see at the end what question was the hardest for students, what question took the longest for students to answer. So quiz is also nice to use for assessing students and what might they be struggling with. Plickers is one that I learned about maybe my first year of teaching. It has, every student can get this QR code. And what I have students do is after I print them off, I have them glue them in their math notebooks or there's, one of their notebooks that they have so that it's always there and they don't lose it. But you can see if you look that this QR code has an A on the left-hand side, a B on the right, B on the top, a C on the right, and a D on the bottom. And the 1 would just go with whoever you put as student 1. So say if you do it in alphabetical order, student number 1 would be this Plickers QR code right here. And so you would give a question like I have here on the right-hand side, and students would hold their QR code up to whatever answer choice they think it is. So if they thought it was C, they would turn their card to where C was on top, and then it's an app on a phone or an iPad, and you would just go around and scan it, and it's really good about scanning. You could stand at the front of the classroom and just scan everyone's card, and it would grab everyone's answer, and automatically you could see which is the right answer, who got it wrong. So it's just a different way of assessing students. You could do a quick exit ticket. There's so many different ways. I've often used it as a test review for students, and they actually really do love this game. And I wouldn't call it game, but love this resource to use. You could laminate them and just put them in a bucket and have someone pass them out, glue them in the notebooks. They do have these for free, or you can purchase already cut and laminated ones through their website. I think it's actually through Amazon. Another way to assess students is a tool called Deck Toys. And it's very interesting because it's not a normal way of assessing students. It looks like a game to students, and there's different stopping points for students to go through the game. So they'll start and then they'll get to a point in the game on Deck Toys where they will have to stop and complete an activity, and they are not able to move on until they can complete that activity. So Deck Toys, you can do a matching, you can have students drag and drop, there's, just answer some questions, and it has it in this cute map form. So it looks like a treasure map. Right now, this one looks like a pirate map, but they have different platforms that you can choose from or templates that you can choose from. So it's a lot of fun for students because, again, they don't think that they are reviewing or they think they're playing a game. So it's a lot of fun for them. All right, so that's all that I have for the T or test or assess. I want to go ahead and stop and pause if there were any questions for any of the T, test or assess. Anyone has a question? If not, that is okay. All right, doesn't look like there's any questions about testing. Okay, so how do you link them to Canvas is one of the questions. That's a great, so if I go back, Quiz allows you to share. So you could just share the link in Canvas. For that one, for Gimket, I have never shared to Canvas because they get a code. So it's gimket.com/play, and they type in the code. So they don't go anywhere. So I would give them if you were doing distance learning and you wanted them to play Gimket, I would share the link and the code with students so that they can enter and play together. Google Forms has an embed option, So when you create your Google form and you go to send it, one of your options instead of copying a link is to copy the embed code, and then you can embed that right into Canvas. And so students don't even have to leave to go to Google Forms, which is really nice. It's already just embedded right there in an assignment in Canvas. Plickers would not be able to be embedded in Canvas, and I have not used Deck Toys in Canvas yet this year. Last year we used Google Classroom, so but I'm pretty sure you can embed this as well, or just send them to a link. Secondary ed, I teach 4th grade, so I'm sure that these can be used in secondary ed. I'm sure that students would love to use these. Gimket, I don't know much if they would like that fun factor as much. Maybe they would. You guys would have to read your students. Quizzes, I definitely know could be used in secondary ed. Plickers, absolutely. And Deck Toys, I feel like is very elementary, so I'm not quite sure if they would enjoy that as much as any of the other tools. So I hope that answers your questions. We're going to move to E, which is Engage. My first Engage is Nearpod, and I absolutely love Nearpod. Nearpod has an entire library of resources already pretty much made for you. You can also use and create your own. So Nearpod has a free version, and then they have a paid version. I'm thankful to pay access to everything in the library, which is fantastic. So right here on my slide, you can see this is one that I did with Dia de los Muertos to talk to students about that. Through Nearpod, they have 1,000 different things that you can do. You can take them on a virtual field trip. You can post a discussion board, and students right there on their computers can, type their answer to a question for the discussion board, and it pops right up like on a bulletin board or a sticky note. And so what's great about Nearpod is that there's several different options you can do. Especially with distance learning, they've added an additional option. So the first option is teacher-led. So what would happen is that you would post this, and in the top left-hand corner, there's a code. They would go to nearpod.com and type in that code, and they would see it on their device, and you would be controlling everything. So they would not be allowed to move forward without you. The second option is student-paced, opposite of teacher-paced. Students are able to move at their own pace, and they can do, go as quickly as they can or as slow as they want to. And the last one that they just added is through Zoom. So now you can add and complete a Nearpod through Zoom, so you could be teaching students and using a Nearpod at the same time. Nearpod is great because it has all of these different options. You can play videos, you can do polls, you can do quizzes right there and embedded. And like I said, that in the Nearpod library, if you pay or get the premium option, has 1,000 different resources, kindergarten through 12th grade. So it's extremely useful if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything for this activity. Let me see what they have. I use this to talk about voting and the voting processes with my students. Dia de los Muertos, I've made my own for reading and math. It links with Google Slides, and so you can create all the content you need in Google Slides and add in the different features through Nearpod, and it embeds very nicely into Canvas if you use Canvas. If you use Google Classroom, you can just give them the link and the code, which is at the top left-hand corner, and they just have to go to the link, type in the code, and then they're good to go. So Nearpod is one of my favorite resources. Flocabulary is also a resource that integrates with Nearpod. They combined one another, so Nearpod and Flocabulary are kind of one company now. And so a lot of the videos and activities through Nearpod have Flocabulary integrated with it. I'm actually going to show you a Flocabulary video and all of the resources that are available through Flocabulary. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see it. All right, so this is Flocabulary, and they have different options you can do. You have vocabulary cards, vocab game, you can do a reading and respond, quiz, and then they can analyze the lyrics. You could assign this to students as well through an account, but I'm just gonna play a part of the video for you so you can hear how catchy the song is in order to teach students.
Got it in the way that it's written, oh yes. There are 5 main structures you can check. Find the structure and they get less complex. Let's flex and break down all 5. Follow me, the text structure mastermind. This first text structure is called description. It describes the topic and is back to most recent. Construction began. To balance it with more floors, but due to extra weight, it leaves even more.
All right, so I'm not going to show you the whole video, but as you can see, it's extremely engaging for students. It's very catchy tunes. The students love dancing to it and singing to it because it puts the words right up on the screen. So what I typically do with vocabulary is that I play it for introduction at first to engage students on what we're about to learn. And then I play it again so students have the opportunity to sing along and they get the tune really quickly. And the chorus is very catchy. So the text structure one is one of my favorite, but this is definitely something that can be used K through 12th grade as well. They have different videos on different things and it's broken up by grade level. What's really cool about FlowCab as well is that they do a wrap up of the week essentially. So they take all of the news stories that happened in the week and put it in a video so that if you needed maybe 5 minutes before lunch or before dismissal, you could always play what happened in the week on FlowCab. So I love FlowCab. Like I said, it integrates with Nearpod. So a lot of lessons on Nearpod have FlowCab videos on it as well. The next thing is EdPuzzle. EdPuzzle is great because you can put content into EdPuzzle and then make sure your students are actively listening and comprehending what they're learning by putting questions. So here we have a brain pop video, which someone just used like a Screencastify or screen recording app to record the brain pop video. And if you look, you can see all of the little dots at the bottom of the screen. When the video gets to that dot, it stops and asks a student or the students a question. So it could be a true or false question or a multiple choice question, but it stops and makes sure students are comprehending what they're learning or listening to. And it's very great to make sure that they're staying engaged, because if a student's not engaged in the video or the activity, then they're not going to be able to answer the questions. So you can put as many stopping points as you want or as little stopping points as you want. But I really like to use it so I can know if my students are engaged or not. This is one also that you can embed into Canvas, and it's very nice as well. This could be used K through 12th grade, I think, too, because you just always want to know and make sure that your students are engaged with their learning. Flipgrid, I'm sure Flipgrid was popular for a lot of teachers in spring. It definitely was popular for me and my school. This is a Flipgrid content that we have a science specials teacher, and she recorded a video, which you can see her video in the top right-hand corner here. And she had students create instruments at home. So she created a video giving them instructions of what they needed to do, but also wrote down the instructions of what they needed to do. And then these were 2 of my students from last year and their videos. So they each had different videos that they could record. So Flipgrid allows students to record themselves doing something that you have asked them to do. So I've used it for asking, I've asked a question and they've had to respond to it. I've had them read reading material, and I've had them, respond to the reading material that they've read. It's great for these science activities. If you want to listen to students reading and hearing them read, you could give them all the same reading passage and have them read out in the hallway, and that way you can see maybe their fluency or what words are they struggling with. So Flipgrid can be used a variety of ways. K through 8, I think 12th grade as well. I've seen it used in middle school. I haven't seen it in high school, but I'm definitely positive it could be used in high school. It's also embedded with Canvas, so you can embed it. It can be a button in Canvas if you wanted it to be a button. Like I said we used Google Classroom last year, so I would just give the link and students would sign in with their email. So that made it very easy for sign in for students. And so Flipgrid is just a great resource. And I've seen teachers who've created little recording booths in their classrooms or outside their classrooms for students to go and make their Flipgrid videos. So it was kind of out of the way and they weren't as embarrassed either, to be recording. Because that's what the problem I run into a lot with fourth graders. And even when I taught fourth and fifth grade last year, my fifth graders were too cool to, want to record in front of other people. So I had to send them out in the hallway to record their videos. And then Generation Genius. This is like 2020's version of Bill Nye the Science Guy. So if you've not heard of this, it's very, very fun and engaging for students. Generation Genius has, we have our dancing scientist is what he calls himself. And then they have 2 helpers. So they have a K through 3rd grade version, a 4th through 5th grade version, and then 6th grade through 8th grade version. And they're adding more to the 6th and 8th grade version. That's the newest version of Generation Genius. I know that you can get 2 weeks for free, and I cycled through all of my email addresses when I first heard about this so that I could use Generation Genius. If you're on a team of teachers, my suggestion is to have you do 2 weeks and then have another teacher do 2 weeks and then another teacher do 2 weeks. Our principal ended up purchasing it for us just because of how amazing it is. But it aligns with next generation science standards. You can see that there is a 5E lesson plan that you get. Each video has do-it-yourself activities that you can do with the students afterwards, vocabulary discussion questions. They have a paper quiz, but they have an online quiz, which is linked with Quiz-Is. So student or Kahoot, one of the two, I cannot remember, but it's linked with an online source so that students can take it online. It gives you your lesson plans. What's really new is this reading material, and it's fantastic. They now have reading material that goes with the topic, and then it has exit tickets as well. So my kids love Generation Genius. A lot of the times they're filming in Florida at Busch Gardens, which my students thought were so cool. And then they're in the lab, they're doing experiments and blowing things up. So it's very 2020 Bill Nye, but it's a lot of fun for students. All right, so that was everything for the Engage section. I want to stop and ask and see if anyone has questions about any of the things I just talked about before I move on to the next one. No questions. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. If I see any questions pop up, I'll stop. So my next one is create. And so I've kind of took create both how you as a teacher or a parent can create and how your students can also create. Jamboard has been one of my favorite tools to use in Google this year. Jamboard allows a bunch of students or a bunch of people to get onto this one screen and collaborate with one another. So here you can see that I had a question, which is in the middle, and it said round the following number to the hundreds place, and there was my number. So in fact, I created this question in PowerPoint, and I just saved it as an image and inserted it into the Jamboard as the background so that it was there for students. I added the link into Canvas because there's no way to embed this into Canvas. So I just added the link into Canvas, and students can view it, and then they can add the sticky notes. So a lot of the time I have them use their whiteboard and Expo marker, and I allow them to solve it and then post their answer. So you can see most of the students had the right answer. Some of them had different answers. There is the issue of students copying other sticky notes, which is what I run into a lot of times. We're still, learning that we don't copy students or other people's answers. That doesn't help us. You've got to do it on your own. So this is great just to allow students to collaborate with one another, or to, pose a question like this and use sticky notes too. It's really great. They love it. Again, I would suggest making sure you set up your expectations well before using Jamboard, because when students post sticky notes, then they can move everyone else's sticky notes, and so that becomes problematic. So if you use Jamboard, I would definitely highly suggest setting up expectations and walking students through how to use it and the etiquette on how you want them to post and use Jamboard as well. But it can be used in a variety of ways. We've used it as a school to write congratulation cards for different people and other things. So it's a pretty good resource to use, and it's free through Google Suite. The next one is Pixton. Pixton I used in the spring when we were out for distance learning. It does cost money, so I can't remember how much it costs exactly, but it's really fun because students can create their own comics. And so this was for my 5th grade social studies in the spring, and I had them create a comic strip on something that we were learning on the American Revolution. And so this was his comic strip that he created. And I just think it's a lot of fun. You can purchase different packs, which are the different scenes. So this was an American Revolution pack that I purchased in the spring, and so students were able to only choose specific backgrounds and specific people for this pack. They have animal packs, they have everything social studies packs. So I want to say the packs run between $9.99 and $15. So it is a little bit on the pricier end of things, but it's a really fun for students to be able to create their own comic strips. So I really liked that, because then you can see and make sure that they are learning, and then allowing them to get creative with Pixton as well. Another create is Thinglink, and that one's hard to say 10 times fast. But Thinglink allows you to take pictures and then link the pictures to other things. So for example, this was one of my first day activities. This was my classroom before COVID. That's definitely not what it looks like now, but this was my classroom before COVID, so I just used that as my background. You can see the little plus signs. Students are able to click on that plus sign, and what I really liked about Thinglink is that I could record instructions for students. I have about 90% of my class are English language learners, and so I was able to record instructions for my students so that they were able to listen to my instructions and then complete the activity. So students had a Google slide open for this and another tab, and they would click on the button, the number 1 button, and it would read them the instructions, and then they would go and answer the question on their Google slide that they had. So this was just a first day of school activity that had different questions, like what are you most excited about? What is a nickname you might want to go by? What's your favorite subject? What's your least favorite subject? So it was just a way for me to be able to get to know students and get to know their hopes and fears of school that year. So for Thinglink is great. It has different capabilities for you to do. Like I said, you add the pictures, and then you can add your self-recording instructions or recording material for students to complete. And then Padlet. Padlet is one of my favorites. I have lots of favorites on technology, but it is one of my favorites. So if you don't pay, again, this is one that you could cost money, but they do allow you to do some free, and I think you get about 5 free. And so I just delete them when I'm done using them, so I don't have to pay for them. This does link with Canvas, so you can have it embed in Canvas, or you can send students the website and just have them answer this. So we've done Skype with the Scientist, and that is an amazing resource for K through 12 teachers. It's free for you, and you can Skype with, on another note, I'm doing this on a whole nother note, Skype with the Scientist. We were Skyping with, are matched up with whatever scientist you choose. And you can Skype with them or Zoom with them. And so it's been a really great opportunity for my students to be able to learn from scientists out in the United States. Even we got matched with a scientist in France. So they're all over the world, and they get to learn, especially and tie it in with what they're learning. So it's a really great resource that I did not tie into my presentation, but I highly suggest y'all look into Skyping with a Scientist. But that's what we use Padlet for, is that we were about to Skype with a scientist who studied structures and functions of duck mice and squid. And so the scientists always like students to come up with their own questions. So to make it simple, I had this Padlet, and students just click on the pink plus sign down at the bottom, and they're able to ask their question, and it posts it up on the board, on this board for them. And then I just shared this with the scientists, and the scientist was easily able to see all of the questions that students had asked. I've used this, we had in spring a virtual Spirit Week. So I use this for virtual Spirit Week because students could take pictures of themselves and add them to the Padlet throughout the week, whether it was pajama day or hat day, silly hair day, they were able to take pictures of themselves and add it to the Padlet. I used it for math. You can pose a question and have students answer the question on it, and it pops up. So I use it a lot for students asking questions and for pictures, but they have a timeline version that you can use, a chat bubble kind of version. So they have different templates you can choose from, but it's really great for students to use it and to respond to it. So it's a great, great resource. Blendspace is like a digital choice board. I have one brought up for you that I'll share with you in just a second. This is one I created, and then they lost it when they did something with their website and they lost my Blendspace that I was going to show you. So I pulled up a random one for you, but it is a digital choice board. So you can add different things to it. As you can see, I added a video. You can add a website, PowerPoint if you created PowerPoint, and PDFs to it. So I'm going to share my screen again for you to show you what it looks like for you. All right, so this is a multiplication Blendspace choice board. So this is one that I just found by searching, and you can play it and it just goes through. And so like this is a video, and so that they would play the video and they can hit next and move on. There's another video that they add to, learn multiplication, and they would just hit the arrow. On the right, you can see that there's a discussion. Students can have a discussion with one another about the things in Blendspace. You can add lots of videos throughout it. And so it looks like a lot of these are videos and websites, but you can add so many different things to it. So Blendspace is just a great way to differentiate learning. So you could create different choice boards for students in order to use them or content. So it's just very versatile, and I think that it's a great resource to have for anything. So you can be creative with it, and that's why I put it under the create side. All right, so that is everything I have for creating, whether it is you creating or students creating. Again, all of these sites are under my handouts page that I have. So if you go to the handouts, I created a PDF for you guys with the icon link that you see in the right-hand corner, along with the website, so that you guys can just choose the one that you like and go and try it out. So we're going to move on to the last section, which is hands-on or help. I've kind of done both here. The first hands-on is Mystery Science. Mystery Science is a fantastic resource. If you've never heard of it or never used it, it does align with next generation science standards. And it is a fantastic way for students to get hands-on with science. It is Science Doug who does the videos, and he talks about how it relates to real life. And then they do the videos on Mystery Science, literally walk you through every single step of the hands-on activity. So this is pictures of my students. We were talking about the structures and functions of the eyes, and this was students creating an eye and what happens when you look at an eye. So in the right-hand picture, you can see that the students can see the window, and it was really cool for students. I work at a Title I school. Students don't have a lot of science background, so Mystery Science is a fantastic way to get students learning and to get them hands-on. And like I said, it walks you through every step-to-step activity for students. So if they need to cut, it's going to be like, okay, get out your scissors and cut this, and it shows them exactly what you need to cut. If they have to fold, it shows them where you need to fold and what they need to fold. And also down at the bottom of the Mystery Science are all of the materials that you need for the activity. Now, Mystery Science is, I believe it's $99 a year for a teacher, but if you sign up for the first time, it's free. So I had it for free my first 2 years because I used 2 different emails. I used my personal and then I used my school, and then our principal purchased it for us. So we have it this year. So it is a very great resource for doing hands-on science. The other one is Glencoe. So if you are at home with your students or you're doing virtual learning and you're like, man, I really wish I had math manipulatives for my students to work with, Glencoe, which is through McGraw-Hill, if you just search Glencoe McGraw-Hill, it'll come up, is a free virtual manipulative website for you. And when I found this, I was shook. So I'm going to show you what it looks like because it's really, really amazing. So it comes up as like a blank whiteboard almost for you. You can select the grade you want. So I'm going to select grade 4, but it goes to grade 8. And so you can choose backgrounds. So you have different work mats you can choose from. So say you are working with place value in millions, you can choose that work mat. Down at the bottom, you have a pen. So maybe you want students to write the numbers. Down here, you could have students write numbers down here, etc. You can have them remove the background and clear the objects afterwards. My favorite thing was the manipulatives. So you have all of these manipulatives for math. There's so many to choose from. We used the base 10 blocks. Loved using the base 10 blocks. So as you can see, the base 10 blocks came up on the left-hand side. So here is the thousands base 10 blocks. What I really liked about this resource too is that you can break up the thousands block into hundreds. So now I have all of my hundreds, but from there you could also break it up and break it up. So you could really show students how place value works through this digital resource. Again, you can clear it. You can go to, maybe you want them to use spinners and they have spinners down here. You can have students use different types of spinners. So there's so many different manipulatives for students to use on here. And the fact that it's free is quite amazing to me. So that's a fantastic resource if you're wanting students to get real hands-on with math and you are doing distance learning. So that's Glencoe McGraw-Hill. Another one is whiteboard.fi, and this one is really cool too because if you're doing distance learning and you don't have the materials to send whiteboards home to students, you're able to share this website with them. So you can, you could pose a problem, 32 times 6, and in the top right-hand corner, you could push that out to all students, and so they would have that problem on their board, or they can just use it as a whiteboard. So you create an account and they get a code and students just use that code to log into classroom essentially. So there's a variety of different things they can do and different tools. They can add audio, graphics, use emojis. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can use whiteboard.fi, especially if you're doing virtual learning and you don't have the ability to send home whiteboards to students. I really liked it because I could put the problem on the board and push it out to students. So every student had the same problem and they didn't need to worry about writing the problem on their own board, that they could just go from there and solve it. So that was whiteboard.fi. The last one that I'm going to talk about is Cami. Cami integrates very well with Canvas and I have loved using it. I have not used it with Google Classroom, so I'm not sure how it works with Google Classroom. But on the left-hand side is the worksheet that would be a normal paper-based worksheet, and I have made it digital through Cami. And so I've uploaded it on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is what it looks like once a student has completed it. So we have a program called MSRC, which works on the different types of syllables. So this is just students practicing closed syllables. So on the left-hand side, they get all of these options. I taught them how to use these options so they know how to use the text tool and the marker to where they can mark out things or underline things. And then they just turn it in and it saves it to your Google Drive. And then when you use Canvas to use SpeedGrader, you can see their work already there, and you can add stickers. So this little corgi sticker in the top left-hand corner is one of the options. So you can add stickers through Cami as well to give them great work, tell them. You can also give them feedback on what they need to do. So Cami is great because of all of the different options that turns a paper-based worksheet to a digital worksheet. So I really liked Cami. It's not, right now I have it on a free teacher trial, but it expires in December. So then come December, I'm going to have to pay for it, but I don't think it is that expensive. So I'm not too worried about using Cami. So that's Cami. That is the end of my presentation. I want to give options for if anybody has questions about any of the resources that I've talked about. So I'll just hang out. I know that it's a little bit before 1:15. So if you guys have any questions about what I talked about, maybe you want to share some things that you like. I didn't discuss. Obviously, I could not discuss everything that I use. That would be more than an hour presentation because I use a whole lot. So Shelby said she used Jamboard as a main source during her final internship in high school. Yes, that is a great way to use notes as well. Plickers in high school. Yeah, Plickers. That's great to hear that you were able to use it in high school. That answers the question about secondary ed for sure. You would like to have me on speed dial. I can leave my email and you can email me about any questions that you have. Okay, so Jessica asked what's my ultimate favorite. I would have to say Nearpod is my ultimate favorite. And if you guys want, I can show you what Nearpod looks like from a teacher perspective, so you can kind of get more of an idea of what Nearpod looks like. But Nearpod, just the ability to do the virtual field trips, to do the collaboration, to assess students. Nearpod just has so many different options to do that I really, really like Nearpod. You can even do 3D models. If it's just, the options are unlimited, it feels like, for Nearpod. What do you like best for online collaboration for students? I like Padlet best for online collaboration. I've recently started using Jamboard more, but Padlet's definitely my favorite to use just because of the fluidity of Padlet and just the simplicity of it for students. And unlike Jamboard, they can't move the sticky notes and everything. It's already it just goes in one spot that's available on the Padlet. So there's no worrying about where the sticky note's gonna go. Yeah, Padlet is amazing for sure. Really do love Padlet. Would you guys like me to show you a Nearpod and what it looks like from a teacher's perspective? Okay. Sure thing. All right, no problem. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I don't have it pulled up, so I've got to get it pulled up first, but EdPuzzle is a great as well. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen for Nearpod. So what's nice about Nearpod is that it does sync with Google, so you can just do the login with Google, or if you use Microsoft, you can also log in through that as well. So when you first log into Nearpod, you will have your own library. I have created folders for a lot of different things here. As you can see, I have different folders, and then these are ones I've added to my library but have not put in a folder yet. So this is just my library, but if you have the premium Nearpod, you could search the Nearpod library. And there's literally thousands of different resources you can use. So you can see that there's kindergarten through high school. There's all of the subjects, there's computers, there's social emotional learning, there's test prep. There's so many different resources that sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming because you're like, you want to do everything and anything. So if I take you back to my library, I just want to show you what there is available for students to do. And I'm going to take you to one that I created. So here's one we created for a reading mini lesson for reading curriculum. Once it loads. So at the bottom, you can see that there's live participation or student paced. And then sharing. You can share in Nearpod, but that's because I created this in Google Slides. So that's fine. So here was our essential question. Just a quick read, took this from a reading curriculum site. Then students used a this is a virtual field trip. So students, you can enter VR mode. So it looks more like a VR headset. So, you know, I move my mouse and I'm exploring whatnot. So that's cool. Or they could just drag their mouse and look either way. Here's another virtual field trip. So they can just drag and view. And then an open-ended question. So this is one of the features you can do. My question was, how is Iceland different from where you live in Utah? So they would type their answer, and this is new. This recording audio is a new thing that they can now do and record audio. This was our skill, narrative nonfiction. So like I said, I created all of this in Google Slides first and then uploaded it to Nearpod. So they would read about Sally Ride. Then they would fill in the graphic organizer to fill the important dates and the events that happened, so they can actually type and use this slide. So they could either use a marker, they could enter a text box, they could enter graphics on this slide. So different options for students to do. And then here we had a vocab. I'm just going to quickly go through these vocab slides. And then at the end, I had a matching. So they would just match like confidence, and so if they got it right, it would tell them. And they would just continue to match. If they got it wrong, they got it wrong. And then a fill in the blanks. So they would just click on it and drag it to where it needed to go. And then they could click done and see if they tell them how many they got correct. So that's just a little glimpse into what Nearpod can do. That's definitely not everything that Nearpod can do. So it can do so much more than what I just showed you. And again, they have different ones already made for you. During distance learning, I definitely used it a lot to, introduce new concepts, to review concepts, because why reinvent the wheel when they already have it? So that is Nearpod. Are there any questions or comments left for you guys? How long did it take to create the Nearpod? It depends on how detailed you want it. First, I'm you could say perfectionist, or very much like everything to be aesthetically pleasing. So the first time I did it, it would probably took me maybe 30 to 45 minutes, but now I have that template saved. So I just go in and edit the template to mirror what I'm teaching and what I need to do. So that would be one way to do it. Is like, it might take you longer the first time you do it, but once you have it and save it, then you can just go in and change the information to make it easier and less time consuming for you. You can also pull things from different Nearpods and use them. You can edit Nearpods. So I've edited Nearpods before to where like we don't cover this information on part of this Nearpod. So I'm going to delete some of these slides, and that way it covers everything that I need to cover. So it's very, honestly, it's one of my favorites. When I was first introduced to it, only like 3 years ago, I had never heard of it until I moved out to Utah. And it's been amazing to use. So, yeah. Are there any other questions? How did I become so well-versed and knowledgeable of these resources? I was nominated to be the tech person at my school. So that is really how I became so involved in these resources. We're also one-to-one at my school. So it gave me more opportunity to look and find more resources. And in Utah, and I don't know how it is in Florida schools as much because I did not have this at the school I was in Florida. We have a coach who is there to help answer questions and guide us. And I got put with an amazing coach who, thank you, Peggy. I got put with an amazing coach who was a 5th grade teacher who also used a whole lot of technology, and she taught me so much here when I moved out here. And so I just learned, and it became a snowball effect. But also my STEM master's degree also gave me an opportunity to research a lot of different resources and everything to help. It also helps because I have English language learners that I need to find things that are easily adaptable to them and to differentiate for them. So that's another way, is that we have a lot of, I'm at a Title I school with a lot of English language learners. So definitely, I mean, I'm here as a resource. I don't know if you guys have access to my email address, but I will type it in the bottom. This is my school email. And that way you can email me if you have questions. There you go. So you can email me if you have questions. Yeah, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this little blurb of how I can use technology to test my students, engage them, to create with them, and to be hands-on. So if there's any other questions, you can feel free to drop them. I'll be here for a little bit. Thank you, Ms. Pratt. Awesome, Shelby. I'm glad that it was helpful for you. Awesome, Casey. I'm glad that you can use these resources. I bet that they'll be able to engage students during this time. That's really like, these resources are really great to help change things up and give students something different from the, you know, normal, mundane, day-to-day things. When you introduce a new technology, their reactions are awesome. They love it. Yes. Absolutely. Student teaching is definitely a great time to try anything and everything. That way you kind of know going into your actual classroom what it's going to be like. And then you have routines down. Maybe you know what something went wrong. Thank you, Aunt Carmen. All right, well, if there's no other questions, you guys have my email. You feel free to email me, and I am here if you have questions, or if you want some other sites I can give you, if you have ideas of what you want to use, but you don't know of a technology resource out there, just email me and let me know. I'm sure that I have the ability to share something with you. Thank you all for coming to my session, and I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend.